And there's something to say about the relationship between their approach and something that Catherine Hales mentions as well, Franco Moretti's work on distance reading. Okay, so digital methods is, we would say, what we would call natively digital method for social and cultural research. And what I'm going to do for the rest of this talk is kind of elaborate or kind of explain this by looking at these 4 different areas. So to begin, we have our research practices. This is, again, something that Catherine Hales mentions in her recent work about how we're moving with the digital humanities from individual work to collaborative work, and that this has a lot of important effects. One thing is, of course, that it's interdisciplinary. Hales mentioned or argues that the best digital humanities work comes out of collaborations in which there's kind of respectful communication between these different these people with different roles. So that for us, that's the programmers, the researchers, and the designers. But what you often see with us is that everyone kind of does all the work in the end. I mean, obviously, our main lead programmer does things I can't do, but I can definitely talk to him about it, and that goes back and forth. And kind of like near the end of a project, everyone will be a designer because you're all trying to finish off that last information visualization or whatever. It's all project work. This is getting to the point I just mentioned earlier. It's all temporary. It's our normal work schedule, in addition to the summer school, is kind of very short, intensive workshops in which we kind of finish a project in, say, a week. So we work, with a room full of people like this, and we're there for 3 or 4 days straight, and in the end, we have a number of outputs. I put up the sort of mundane point of it being space-based. It's not telecommuting or anything. It's and I also wanted to mention this just because Alan was showing me that you guys are getting a new collaborative workspace over here down the hall, and that's really exciting, and it is really important to have a kind of quality space. And what we've noticed when you kind of work in different places, like we'll get an opportunity to work at a different university or something like that, what you notice is you become obsessed with these sort of rudimentary, mundane things. Like how robust is the wireless there? What kinds of firewall, all this type of stuff. So yeah, it's space-based. There are, and obviously another thing that changes when you move to this kind of research, collaborative research, and digital research, is that the outputs are very different. So at the end of the week, we don't have, obviously, a long research article with an intricate argument, but we have a number of visualizations. We do, actually today I'll be showing mostly network diagrams. But we also have output things like videos, or I mentioned that in my bio, one of the art pieces we created. That again goes back to kind of these institutional issues. I mean, sometimes funding will come from an arts foundation rather than a scholarly foundation. So that's some of the variety of the output we do, but mostly I'll be showing network diagrams today. I'll just mention that I picked this photo out, even though I can't really make things out. That's our kind of patron saint of theory that's being beamed in Bruno Latour. And we're all working very studiously in that picture.
Is he live there?
Yeah, we Skyped him in. Yeah. So that was for a project on mapping controversies. He's been working on that for a while. We did some of that. So new objects of study. Earlier I mentioned this term, the natively digital. I should point out that natively digital, I think this is an important point to make here. Natively digital is not necessarily as technologically deterministic as it sounds. If you look at computer science, the definition in computer science of native, it means designed for or built into a given system. Right? So what we're interested in is what are natively digital objects for new media that enable new forms of analysis. And I've listed some examples, some basic examples here: the hyperlink, the tag, and more recently the retweet. We've done some retweet analysis. What we're also interested in is using the title, this idea of follow the medium. What we're also interested in is considering how these natively digital objects are being treated on the web. And if you zoom out a little bit and look at it kind of historically, you could think about this by looking at the hyperlink. So the hyperlink originates as an idea in Ted Nelson's head, and it is essentially a navigational tool. Later on, through hypertext theory, the hyperlink becomes sort of the enabler of the enabler of the reader becoming an author, right? The hyperlink is what one uses to author one's own path through hypertext in the theory of like George Landau. But then later on, when we look at the emergence of the web, quite soon after Tim Berners-Lee wrote his proposal for hypertext as a solution to directory-based classification systems, quite soon after that, the hyperlink takes on new connotations, new meanings, through, for example, blogging that used hyperlinks as a way of showing preference or showing association with sources or with other bloggers. And it also becomes a means of kind of measuring reputation, an indicator of reputation. So with Google, which started in 1995. So looking at that, you see that the way the web now treats hyperlinks is primarily as an indicator of association and reputation. And so this is something that we would take into consideration when trying to develop new methods. And I'll give you an example of this with a case, just to give you kind of an example of a more traditional form of analysis with something that we're trying to do. This is from a case, the Palestinian Cyberspace Project. We did this together with the Cambridge Security Program. It's interesting to note, just as a sort of side note, like, I don't know who shares a fascination with me for cyberspace, but cyberspace as a term seems to only still be used in security studies, but by extension, in the if you look at like the national security documents for the U.S., it's about security in cyberspace. So if anyone wants to venture a theory why that is, I'd love to hear it. I just find it weird. But so
they have nostalgia for defending territory.
Mm-hmm.
I guess so. Yeah, that would probably, that's a good answer. But so what we wanted to do with this project, broadly speaking, is try and assess the state of the Palestinian web, and with this play on words with state, both as in kind of the health or well-being, but also this idea of a kind of Palestinian independence in cyberspace. There were 6 sub-projects. One of them was, for example, the uptake of the .ps domain. If you go to the Palestinian Internet Naming Authority, they argue that you should get a .ps domain because it's a symbol of Palestinian identity. Right? And so we're looking at the uptake of that, for example. But what I want to focus on is 2 approaches that were carried out to studying the Palestinian blogosphere.